in the studio with us here today, Harshita. Harshita, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Harshita Dadala. I am one of the product managers on AWS Amplify. And I'm here today to talk about building cross-platform applications using a single Flutter project with AWS Amplify.
Sweet. So I'm actually really curious. So if you could tell me what is Flutter and what does it enable for me?
Yeah, so Flutter is a project which, by Google, which I'm going to talk a little more about during our session. But yeah, with Flutter, you can actually build applications for multiple screens with one single code base, which really helps helps developers save a lot of time and is a very great way to get started for building apps for your users.
Nice, yeah. I'm a little familiar with Flutter. I'm excited because I know we've got a demo coming up later in the session too, so we're going to get to see some hands-on Flutter. It's very interesting. You can target all types of different platforms like desktop, mobile, web, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to jump in and we can pester you with questions throughout your presentation?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's get started. Awesome. So yeah, let's get started. So just to go through our agenda. First, we're going to talk a bit about what AWS Amplify is and what it provides for developers. And then we're going to talk about what Amplify provides for Flutter developers. And then go through a very interesting demo about how you can build a budget tracker app using AWS Amplify with a Flutter project. So let's get started. First, let's talk about front-end development. Front-end development front-end developers essentially build apps for screens that are directly interacted by users. Users interact with the company's brand primarily through these apps, and companies use these avenues to actually communicate to the users directly through these front-end apps as well. So front-end development is an extremely important and challenging job because developers need to handle cases like low network connectivity and limited space on the device and such for their end users to have a very seamless experience.
And it's the UI, right? It's what everybody experiences in the app.
And making sure that all the interactions are seamless and not being jittery, or the performance is good, because it's so noticeable to the end user. So developers do want to provide that rich experience to their developers. Sweet. So that's that's what we have front-end development as. And now talking about what AWS Amplify itself is. AWS Amplify is a framework for front-end developers to go from an idea to a production-ready application very quickly without having to need any deep cloud expertise to set up all those services and have various conversations on which one's a better service to use, how to actually manage these things. And AWS Amplify helps you scale securely along with your growing user base and make sure that you are just focusing on building the app of your dreams for your users and not focusing on just how to, let's say, oh, how do I implement like a specific auth situation? Because you can go like days building that one step.
Oh yeah, I never want to rebuild auth from scratch ever again.
Exactly.
And that's one of my, that was kind of the entry gate for me personally with Amplify was, building out prototypes and things like that. You often have to have some sort of authentication to show. And then obviously when you're shipping to production, you have to have authentication. And it's complicated, it's complex.
Yeah.
And even going in and understanding all the disparate parts in AWS that come together to build an authentication system, you don't have to do that if you use Amplify. You can just Amplify, add, auth, and
exactly. It provides such an easy to use interface. Like when I was doing my own project and I wanted to build something, I just wanted to get authentication. I just wanted an API to store my data. I just wanted to have one API where I can display maps on my app. I didn't want to deal with oh, how do I figure this out? Everything took a whole day to set everything up. But with Amplify, within less than an hour, I was able to just get a boilerplate app out there that's completely connected to the cloud.
Yeah. I think we're going to see. We'll ask you later from your demo.
I won't give up too many goodies right now.
Yeah, from your demo. Let's be sure to remember to ask you how long that demo took.
Yes,
right.
definitely.
I'm putting that in my mind.
So yeah, let's talk a little more about all the different tools that Amplify provides for front-end developers. So we have, Amplify helps front-end developers to build, ship, and scale their applications for their user base. With Amplify CLI and Amplify Studio, developers can create and manage their backend AWS backend resources quickly, and also use the libraries to connect to these backend resources in their applications. They can also use our end-to-end managed CI/CD capabilities to host their apps and ship their front-end and back-end. Furthermore, you can also have like configurations. Firstly, you can also go further and customize your backend via the AWS Cloud Development Kit or the CDK, and you can then deploy that as part of your CI/CD. Or you can go the other way around. You can export your Amplify backend and use that with your own CI/CD, custom-built CI/CD pipeline, which you can use all the goodies from Amplify CLI that allows you to manage GraphQL models and such to then use your own CI/CD pipeline with.
Yeah, Harshita, I don't know if you agree with this or not. I'd be very interested to hear your opinion. What you're describing, obviously, like is the maturity level as you get more comfortable with AWS. Like maybe you start as a beginner, right? To me, I think one of the easiest ways to deploy a web app today on AWS is Amplify hosting, and I think it's a really great way for beginners to get comfortable because it's kind of complicated to deploy a web app, but not with Amplify hosting. It's very straightforward, and then once you discover all the other tools that come with Amplify, you start getting more hands-on, and then you start seeing how you can incorporate other pieces of architecture, built with things like the CDK.
Yeah.
Is that like how you generally recommend people approach Amplify for the first time if they've never seen it before?
That's a great point. So because I always talk about the journey of the developer, right? Like you're not even a developer at first. You're a person with an idea, and you want to deliver that to the world. And then you become a developer. So at that point, in that phase, you're like trying to see how can I get started with my idea. You don't want to deal with all the complexities of the cloud or how to set up apps or which app is the best. So with that, when you use a product like Amplify, you are offloading a lot of that thought process to a different service that exists for this purpose. And you can just continue building your app for your users the problems that you want to solve. But over time in that journey, you start realizing small things that you want to tweak so that you can better serve your customers. And then you can choose what level of complexity do you want to go in, what level of configurations do you need to make. And you can slowly graduate in that journey using Amplify and the different tools within Amplify and AWS as a whole. Because with Amplify, not only do you have all the great business logic and all the easy-to-use scalability that comes along with it, you also have AWS services and the cloud behind it that you can always escape into and use. So
that's the cool thing about Amplify too. It's all provisioning out AWS services that you can go interact with directly too. It's almost like Amplify grows with you, right?
Exactly.
As you grow as a dev, you discover more and more things to use within Amplify.
Yes.
I've found, at least.
I completely agree.
Very cool.
I also think it reduces the risk, right?
Oh,
it reduces your risk of setting things up wrong as a beginner, right?
Best practice is built in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you can go at your own pace. Or quicker, actually, that's what we say. So yeah, having said that, let's talk a little more about the front-end libraries that Amplify provides. We provide a combination of web and mobile libraries. For web, we have JavaScript, React, React Native, and Angular and Vue frameworks. And for mobile, we have native frameworks such as Swift and Android for the mobile screens. And then we have the cross-platform frameworks like React Native and Flutter. And now, having said Flutter, I'm going to use that as a segue to my next topic.
Please.
What is Flutter?
Yeah, what is it?
So Flutter is an open source framework by Google that allows developers to build beautiful apps that are natively compiled for the mobile or different platforms, actually for different screens, using a single code base. This means that developers don't have to spend a ton of time trying to build a specific app for each platform. So it really brings the whole one code, many screens concept to fruition. So that's what Flutter is. And let's talk about what makes Flutter great. So with Flutter, you can manage your UI and logic of the app in one single code base and deploy it to multiple targets or screens. And this also means that with the development time of one app, you can actually deliver apps for iOS, Android, desktop, web, and other screens all at once. You also get built-in UI widgets that you can customize, and this means that you don't have to build a UI component specifically for every platform. You can just use one UI widget that automatically is compatible with all the other platforms that you're building for.
Nice.
And who doesn't like to save some time, right? You do not want to keep waiting for your code to build. You run the code constantly. Just keep developing away and see your changes in real time. So hot reload, there you go. So you can use hot reload with Flutter as well.
So not hot to touch. Just on my click. That's
great.
And along with all these other customizations, you also get a lot of powerful animations that you can use that really takes your user experience to a next level and really provides a polished end-to-end user experience for your app and end users. So those are some of the reasons that I think that Flutter is great. So let's kind of talk about what platforms it supports. Like we've been talking about platforms and screens a lot. Let's just talk about what that means. So Flutter today supports mobile, web, and desktop and other embedded devices. And out of these, AWS Amplify libraries for Flutter supports mobile, web, and desktop platforms. So for mobile, it's iOS and Android. For web, they're the web browsers, and desktop is Windows or Mac OS apps, native apps. So with these, you can actually, you can also see the actual support level of these in our GitHub repository. So definitely go there to see the latest there.
Amplify is all open source.
Open source, yes. Just like Flutter, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. So then, and now we have Amplify Flutter version 1.0.0 live. And what does this mean? This means that Amplify for Flutter is completely written in Dart from scratch. And why did we do this? Because this enables us to extend the support for Amplify Flutter from just mobile to web and desktop as well. And we did this because we want developers to spend lesser time and use the same code base to build for multiple screens and multiple platforms. And this is another testament to how Amplify really invests in meeting the developer where they're at and allowing them to be productive in the framework that they feel most comfortable with. This definitely improves the developer experience and also increases their ability to deliver faster and provide better features for their users in turn.
Yeah, that's great.
Sweet. And then this is a quick example of how the screens look with one code base. You have a web app, you have a desktop app, you have an iOS app, and an Android app, and they're all shown at the same time.
All from the same code.
So to the exciting part of this session, let's go through the demo that I have prepared for us.
Love demos.
So in this demo, we are going to build a budget tracker app, and here you'll see the web app that is being compiled. And we're going to have an entry screen where we're going to input our budget title, description, and amount. And we're going to create that, and that's going to display over here. So that's kind of the app that we're building.
That's the web version so far.
This is the web version, and this is the mobile version of the app that is also from the same code base. You'll see the same entries populated in here as well. So how do we get started with this? Let's get started. So we are going to go to the Amplify documentation at docs.amplify.aws. And we are going to go to our Flutter library documentation that is, and get started from here. You'll see that a lot of details over here on the different tools and products we provide. And this is also a lot of prerequisites to get started. To save time today, I've already had all this set up on my laptop because I'm using Amplify every day. So I'm going to...
I would hope so, yeah.
I'm going to skip that step. So yeah, let's create our first Flutter project. So we're going to use a Flutter create command and create a project named Innovation Day. And let's wait for that to be created before we go to our setup. We're going to open this project in VS Code so that we have prepared our project so we can make the changes based on our tutorial. And before we do that, I'm definitely going to CD into the folder because I always forget doing this and see a bunch of errors. So I've learned it the hard way. So going into my project over there. And here we're going to set up our environment, the SDK version, and going to paste that. And we're also going to add some of our dependencies that we need for this project.
It's the Flutter SDK, right?
Yes,
okay.
It's the Flutter SDK. And here these are the API, the Amplify API, Auth, Authenticator, and the Amplify Flutter library dependencies. So you can see here, and we are going to paste that, and we are going to run the Flutter pub get command so that we can download all the dependencies into our project so we can then build our app. So I did speed this up a little bit, so it's a little more tolerable. And once that's done, we are going to continue with our tutorial. And here, so Amplify today support minimum version iOS 13.0, so we have to change that in our Flutter project. We're going to go into the iOS folder of the Flutter project so that we can update the minimum version. And then we're also going to make this change in Xcode as it shows up here, because we need to make sure our build settings are correct, because it is going to build in the Xcode simulator. And yeah, so now you're going to see that we're going to make this change in Xcode. So that means I'm going to open the Xcode project. So as you can see, Amplify creates an iOS folder, which is ready to be opened in Xcode directly. So there you go. I'm going to be opening that. And you'll see that it's opened my Flutter project in Xcode. So I'm going to click on the project settings and update my minimum version from 11.0 to 13.0. And do the same thing in the deployment target as well.
Nice. Yeah, so this is interesting about Flutter. It lets you put in specific configuration or maybe even write like specific code per platform, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
You can do that, and you can see all the different folders that you have over there for iOS. So yeah, we are now initializing our Amplify project within our Flutter project. And this means that it's going to create all the configuration files. And we are going to then continue to create our API model so that we can use that to add our budget entries. So with Amplify init, we're going to let that run. And again, you'll see this as a pattern over here. Like with Amplify, you have very easy commands like Amplify init or Amplify add API that we're going to do next. It's almost like having a conversation with the CLI. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and it's interacting with AWS in the background, creating things for you when you do a publish or a push.
Absolutely.
And then also connecting to the things in your code too, through configuration.
Absolutely. And also you'll notice that I'm going through a lot of like the default configurations.
Right.
So I'm like actually not making any customizations along the way. I'm just going through the default configurations, which actually you'll notice that it's enough for me to get started, again, as I said. And this isn't to say that you can always make more customization behind this, but for now, we're just going to the traditional process. So yeah, we're going to copy this budget entry model, and we're going to add it in our project, in our schema, in our GraphQL schema. And we'll save that. And then let's push our changes into our Amplify backend. So
nothing exists in AWS yet.
Nothing, yes. But now with push, we are going to push all those updates back. And that means we have provisioned our backend, and we can continue to interact with that backend. And once we start saving, things will start saving. And we'll be able to actually load those entries back into our project. So you can see like all the configurations being set up over here. It's creating the CloudFormation template in the background.
I was just going to ask, this like creates CloudFormation templates in the background
Correct,
that you can
yes.
use. All right.
Yes. And with the latest version, you can actually make changes to this CloudFormation template as well.
The Amplify auth seems like it really simplifies a lot that would go on with Cognito.
Okay,
And a lot
yeah.
of
it's super complex. Authentication in general is very complex.
So we're running Amplify CodeGen models to actually create our models files so that we can use them in our project now. So there's this boilerplate code that we're going to copy. It provides you the configuration for Amplify and also a lot of like empty functions that you can see there that we'll fill in at a later step. But for now, let's copy this into our main.dart file and proceed with the tutorial. So now once we paste that in, we are going to run our project. And for now, I'm going to run this project on web because the bigger screen and it's nicer to show you folks how we're doing this. And this is the basic UI of our app. And you'll notice that it's just a plain app. The plus button doesn't do anything right now. It's a very bare bones. So we just wanted to get started with the UI so we can get to the meat of the app soon enough. Now let's configure the Amplify project and import all our necessary dependencies into our file. I do want to mention one thing. I had a lot of fun learning the Command D shortcut to delete all these plus signs on the multi-line editing. So that's something that I discovered during this experience. So yeah, we're going to configure Amplify, and also we are going to wrap our app. I know that sounds like a rhyme, but we're going to wrap our app inside of the Authenticator component, which again, you'll see it's like one component that provides you with an end-to-end authentication experience. So with that one line, you have now implemented the sign in, sign up, and forgot password workflows for your app. And this is from our UI library that you have access to that provides you with cloud-connected components that work seamlessly with your backend setup. So yeah, I'm creating my account over here, and we are going to wait for my verification code. And I've sped this up, so I don't want to bore everyone. I'm going to put in my verification code. And all of this, again, like you'll notice, I just added that one authenticator line. That's all I did. And it's already connected to my backend. And now, again, you notice like we don't have any information. Let's now go ahead and create our entry screen where we're going to actually input the title and description fields in the app. So we're going to paste it over there as instructed for adding the entries. And we're also going to connect the plus button to that particular screen. So we are going to add the route to the new screen and also connect that plus button to go to this new route whenever you're navigating to the budget entry screen.
Nice. And I can get started here using Amplify for free. Is that right?
Yes.
I saw that like on the first screen. Yes.
Yes. It is free. It is an open source project. We are very active on GitHub and Discord, so you can always get in touch with us, and we will respond to you over there. And there's a very big community, and we are very happy to hear all the ideas and the concerns as well.
This really helps with like scale, like the cost, security, performance. I mean, this is, I'm going to go try to create a budget tracker for myself, actually. I think I need one of these in my life.
Yeah.
I do need one of these in my life.
I did have to brave my soul to actually create this app. Like, I don't want to look at my budget right now.
I don't either. I don't either.
So we create the new screen, and we add in, as soon as you have all these validations that we built, and I'm going to add in a entry. And you'll see that it's not populating here because we haven't created the loading logic. We haven't added that logic yet. So let's add that code in so that we can load the budget entries that we've just created. So for that, we are going to populate the refresh budget entries. And here we're using our APIs that, again, is so easy to understand. We're creating a query, and then we're doing amplify.api.query, and we're passing in that query so we can get the response for that query from our API. from our GraphQL endpoint, essentially. So you'll see that over here, and we are going to now call this function because we want this function to be called every time that screen refreshes or that screen appears. So every time that's initialized, we're going to call the screen. And it's going to, that function, so that it's going to refresh all our entries. And yeah, so let's just put in our logic for deleting entries as well. And we have completed our data manipulation step here. And we're going to run and see what that looks like.
Stick in, right? Like they stick around.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, now I'm going to run the project again. So again, Flutter run, and I'm going to pick the Chrome option. And this is going to start up my app in the browser. And I'm going to sign in again. And you will notice I sped it up. So, so yeah, you see the entries over here. I'm going to, just so that you know this is real, I'm going to add a few more entries so that you can see it update in real time.
Like, hello.